we've worked for 5 sessions already. Tell me kind of like where you were, and kind of like tell me where you are kind of like now.
Where I was I wasn't even getting out of the door of my own house without my sister around. And where I am now is looking at going back to work again.
Within 5 sessions.
And
Yeah.
yeah, within 5 sessions. Yeah, it's pretty amazing just what you do and how you do it.
Bless you. Thank you. Okay. So, and you really responded, you were one of my lovely clients who responded so well to understanding your own Enneatype, and you went, I found myself. I'm not completely crazy. There's like I'm a ninth of the world. Other people experience what I experience. That was transformative for you to understand that, wasn't it?
Yeah, because always before, I mean, I've had depression on and off for years, and then I was diagnosed with bipolar. Just knowing the reason, because that I'm a 5, I like to kind of not deal with the emotions. To be honest with you, you're the longest person I've ever seen a therapist, like for, except for physical therapy, but.
Yeah, that's quite 5-like. Okay, so you just like go back into your hole again and just kind of like, no, hide
Yeah.
away.
If I even come close to anything, it's just like, I just close down. When I was reading about 5, whenever they're in an environment that's overwhelming or near people that's overwhelming to them, they just kind of do shut down. And I've done that my whole life. So a lot of the things I put down on the peace list, I realized was a lot to do with my Enneatype.
Yeah.
The type 5.
So there's more understanding there, which is what your 5 Enneatype wants to do all the time: knowledge, understanding, and now you've got that knowledge, and it's like, whoa, okay. So this is partly who I am and what I do. It's not completely who I am, but this is what my brain does so much for me in order to be able to get some sense of peace in the world. It wants to understand and to have knowledge. And now you have that knowledge about yourself and what it is that your personality does. You've said that you've resonated more with your 4 wing, which is the individualist.
Yeah, both of them actually. They're about even. The 4 wing is like, it always wants to battle my 5 wing so bad. It's really hard to. It's like even seeing you. It's like I want to see you, and yet on the other hand, I don't want to see you because my 5 doesn't want to see you, but my 4 does. So it's really hard.
And this is why we're so complex.
Just always worrying.
And your 6 is always worrying. Yeah. Okay. Which is the questioning. Yeah. Okay. Which gives you the understanding that you're a 5. And then in stress, you can go to the 7, so you'll be a bit more adventurous. Okay. And then in integration...
Yeah, I've been on a 7 too. When I was under a lot of stress, when I was on my own before, it was money stress and stuff, and I just go and spend without thinking, and yeah, it was just like, and then I was diagnosed at that time with ADD.
Okay, yeah.
So
all of these lovely labels that people put on you. Okay. So how do you respond to this thing where people have not particularly liked the Enneagram so much because they've said that it's very labeling in itself? How has understanding your Enneatype helped you to get rid of some of those labels, those other labels?
Well, I just think that in a lot of ways I understand why they label you with like ADD or bipolar or whatever. But in another way, it's like, it's not really right, because I think that mainstream medicine just doesn't understand a lot of that kind of stuff.
Right.
And they'd rather give you the pills to take care of it. Mm-hmm. That from what I've seen, except for the ADD medicine, none of the other medicines really work.
You've been taking some antidepressants for quite some time, haven't you?
Well, I used to take the antidepressants, and then I tried, when they diagnosed me with bipolar, I went to my doctor first, and he put me on antidepressants, which made it actually worse. And then, so I went to a psychiatrist who said it's bipolar. And then he put me on like 5 different meds. I was on like antipsychotic, lithium, and anticonvulsant.
But you were going hardcore, proper depression. Okay. And where are you with that now regarding your medication and with depression?
Well, I'm off of the medication now.
All of that medication?
All of the psych meds, yeah.
Right.
I'm still taking medicine for pain,
Okay.
and I'm still taking medicine for asthma.
Okay.
But other than that, I'm off of all the psych meds.
That was your choice, wasn't it?
It was my choice. And I didn't like being on the medicine anyway, so
But you started
I
to...
just talked to the doctor about it.
Okay. And during those 5 sessions, you started to notice more balance within your emotional state. You were still crying and still having that reaction that comes out, but you were also beginning to understand the journey of healing, and that you weren't responding to that. Normally, you and other people around you would have responded to your tears and to what was coming out. And then you started to, correct me if I'm wrong, you started to do just... make peace with what is, to what was coming up at that moment in time. So it's, oh, here I am, I'm crying. But there was less focus on that. It was just allowing it as if it was a thunderstorm coming along and just raining, and then it was going away.
Yeah, I mean, I used the technique that you showed me about breathing into your heart.
Okay.
And that helps a lot when I'm crying.
Okay.
And my sister noticed the other day, she's like, yeah, since you've been seeing Daniel, she goes, I hate to admit it, but she's like, you are doing a lot better.
Oh yes, we won the
then my
sister
mom,
over. Okay, that's
and then my mom the other day, I was talking to her on the phone, and she's like, you sound a lot happier. So,
and they were really anti me to begin, weren't they? Sort of like, who's this English guy? What's he doing with your brain?
Yeah. They were nervous because you're from England, and we've never been to England. I mean, we're from England, but we don't know anybody in England.
Yeah, we're all crazy in England.
So
okay.
they didn't, I mean, they thought I should probably be seeing somebody here, but everybody here that I've seen has been like mainstream, and I just haven't really got along with them.
So if I'm not,
far as like,
okay. So if I'm not mainstream, what would you say that I am?
I think you're alternative.
Okay.
And that makes a lot of people nervous. I mean, that's correct, right? You are kind of alternative. I mean, that's what I've understood.
I think my journey was like yours. I saw people in conventional medicine, physically and psychologically, and I wasn't getting anywhere. And I had to do something different. I had to do something alternative. If you do what you've always done, you'll get what you've always got. So this was, I think, this found me as opposed to I found it. And it certainly appealed to me and started to make sense. And I think this is one of the main reasons of why I've ended up doing the work that I do and not becoming a clinical psychologist or a psychiatrist or gone down that road, because I have thought at some point I'm going to do that. But I just use what I use and it works. And the problem I have is that people get better too quickly, and you've only had 5 sessions from not even being able to get out your house to actually thinking about going back to work again.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
It's pretty amazing. Okay.
But,
what's been the main thing to do with your healing within those 5 sessions?
The way you work with me.
How do I work with you?
The way that you understand me. The way you don't let me shut down. Like our last session. Mm-hmm. I realized about a couple of weeks afterwards that I was trying to shut down, and when you asked me a question and I didn't want to answer it.
Yeah.
And
so what do you say?
You wouldn't let me do that.
So I wasn't like, now that might make some people quite fearful, because they'd go, oh, he's going to push me too far. Did you ever feel that you were pushed too far?
No.
Why not?
No, you're very compassionate and you're very understanding, but yet you're firm.
Okay.
I mean, that's not a bad thing. That's actually a very good thing.
Exactly. I've learned to be like this. So, but you started to understand that actually by facing more of that emotion and breathing it and discharging it from your emotional body, as opposed to, this is too much for me, I'm going to walk away, I can't deal with this, and leave it. You know that if you leave it, it'll always be in the back of your mind. You'll always carry it with you. And if it's in the back of your mind, it's going to manifest physiologically and psychologically. So you started to understand that really, if I don't face this, I'm in trouble. Even though it's painful to face it, it's more painful to not face it and never really clear it from my system. I think you started to gain more understanding with that through creating more emotional balance after each and every session. You were still having emotions that were coming up, and I was giving you homework or home play to do, so you were still tapping using EFT in between the sessions, but then starting to understand the emotions and things that were coming up. And then you were really coaching yourself in between those sessions, weren't you?
Yeah, I didn't do as much tapping as I probably should have, but
There's no shoulds
I
and
did
there's
do
no shoulds and
tapping.
coulds and woulds, and so it's just what is. But
But I did whenever I needed to.
what happened when the emotion was coming up instead? What were you doing that you hadn't been doing before?
Well, before I would just like cry.
Hmm.
I could cry off and on for all day. Now it doesn't last that long.
Hmm.
So I think it's just doing the EFT and listening to the relaxation or hypnosis tapes if I need to,
Mm.
and breathing, doing the breathing technique.
But you also
Um,
started to react less to what was happening, whereas before you used to react. So it was like you had your primary reaction, which was the tears, which is as a result of so much unconscious trauma and conditioning and stuff that's happened to you that's throwing itself forward constantly and going, deal with me. And you'll go, whoa, it's too much. And it comes out in tears. But you were starting to have more awareness of what was happening and less fear of that stuff coming up. Whereas what people usually do, which is when I see people with addictions, is that it's never about the addiction, it's about the stuff in the past. And they use their addiction to whatever that addiction is to tranquilize the emotions. Because if you get someone to stop smoking, typically that person will start having issues come up. Because really they're just smoking and stuffing their issues down. So what I saw with you, and tell me if you felt this, was that you started to have an awareness of what was happening. And as we were going into sessions and clearing things each and every time, there were bits, and it's a technical psychological word, bits of emotion that we hadn't fully cleared in each session that was still coming up. And I remember you messaging me and saying, is it okay? I've still got some emotion coming up. And I was just going, yeah, it's fine, just keep being with it. And the more that you were being with it as opposed to wanting it, usually what happens is, I don't want to feel like this, I feel terrible, and wanting to get that emotion away because you don't want to feel like that. What was happening was you were feeling like this, and I know what's happening now. It feels okay. I know it's going to pass. Does that make more sense?
yeah.
I became aware of that for you. It's certainly what happens. It's certainly what happened with me. It's certainly what happens with all my clients. Because this is the nature of healing. It's not that you have sessions necessarily that totally and utterly clear everything that you've ever experienced in your entire life. It triggers all different types of stuff that we've been carrying around with us, which the unconscious goes, oh, right, now's the time for releasing that, is it? And sometimes it will give us only a certain amount, and sometimes it will just go, oh, no, we're on a big purge, here we go. And so it can be different for different people. Sometimes some people will shut down, and it's really hard for me to be able to get them to open up. And sometimes they disappear and run away, and they don't never come back. They may go and see another therapist, or they may just stuff it down all their lives. I don't know. It's personal responsibility where you start to become aware of that, and no, I want more sessions, and I understand where this is going. And I think even after the first or second session, you were well aware of. You were able to drive again, weren't you? I think one of the first or second sessions you couldn't drive because of an accident that had happened, and there was trauma and stuff within your mind that was affecting your body. And then we released that in like one session, and you emailed me and said, oh, I'm driving again. The car wreck. I'm over it. I'm fine. I'm okay. Which was a big, big thing.